Imagine if you could plant a seed in her mind that makes her obey without questioning. All with a simple mental touch. This is the Tsar's touch, the forbidden Russian technique that turns obedience into madness. Have you ever wondered why some men seem to control the women around them without apparent effort? As if they had an invisible power that attracts and guides them? In this video, we reveal the secret of the Tsar's touch, an ancestral psychological approach, adapted for the modern world, that allows you to influence mentally without her noticing, creating an irresistible connection based on principles of deep attraction and human behavior. This technique isn't about crude manipulation, but about awakening hidden desires that make her follow you instinctively, turning ordinary interactions into moments of subtle tension and mutual fascination. But wait, what happens when you combine this with the final trick, a revelation that makes her not only obey, but crave more, revealing a secret that can completely change your relational dynamics? Stay until the end to discover the last technique that involves the definitive psychological touch, and the second revelation that explores how Stoicism amplifies this power, leaving her completely captivated without her understanding why. If you're ready to unravel these mysteries and elevate your game, subscribe to the channel now for more exclusive secrets like this, and give a like if this has already sparked your curiosity. Let's dive together into this knowledge that only the boldest access. 1. The initial touch, where everything starts with a subtle gesture that plants the seed of obedience without her noticing. Imagine approaching her in a casual conversation, observing her gestures and mirroring them discreetly. If she crosses her arms, you do the same moments later, creating an invisible synchrony. This technique, extracted from ancient Russian practices adapted to modern psychology, allows you to become a reflection of her, making her mind instinctively associate you with a feeling of familiarity and trust. Based on human behavior, this works because her brain releases endorphins upon detecting similarities, making her more receptive to your suggestions without conscious resistance. Use this on a date, adjusting your posture to match hers, and watch how she opens up naturally, as if it were her idea. Continue refining this touch by adding a slight prolonged eye contact, not invasive, but penetrating enough to create a subtle tension that leaves her intrigued. Calmly explain something about her day, but infuse the conversation with a question that makes her reveal hidden desires, guiding her to answers that bring her closer to you. This layer deepens the connection, because, according to attraction principles, mirroring activates the brain's reward system, making her feel a magnetic attraction without understanding the reason. Men who master this report that women start following their leads in conversations, obeying impulses that seem to come from themselves. Try it in an everyday interaction, and observe how the air becomes charged with a provocative energy, inviting her to surrender without words. Now, elevate the game by incorporating calculated pauses in the conversation, allowing the silence to build an expectation that makes her crave your next word. Say something like, "You seem like someone who loves unexpected adventures," and pause, letting her fill the void with her imagination. This approach, rooted in human behavior, explores how silence activates innate curiosity, forcing her to invest more in the interaction to resolve the mystery you've created. The result is a mad obedience, where she starts aligning her actions with yours, feeling an attraction that borders on irresistible. Practice this and feel the power to control the flow without apparent effort. Finally, integrate a subtle physical touch, like an accidental brushing of hands during the conversation, anchoring the positive sensation to your presence. This solidifies the initial touch, making her subconsciously associate pleasure with following your suggestions. It works because, based on attraction, it creates a sensory memory that pulls her back to you, even from a distance. Men from secret circles use this to turn encounters into deep and obedient bonds. But imagine if you could amplify this with a phrase that penetrates even deeper into her mind. What's coming next is something that will change everything. Don't miss it. 2. The subliminal phrase, the secret that turns words into invisible commands that she follows without questioning. Start by choosing moments of vulnerability, like when she shares a doubt, and insert a phrase like, "Imagine how liberating it would be to surrender to this completely," said with a calm and mysterious tone. This technique, inspired by forbidden Russian methods, uses embedded suggestions to plant ideas in her mind, guiding her to actions that seem like her own choice. Based on the psychology of manipulation, it works because the subconscious processes implicit commands as internal desires, creating a natural and mad obedience. Apply this in an intimate conversation, and watch how she starts acting according to what you suggested. Feeling an exciting tension in the air, deepen the phrase by adding layers of mystery, like, "There's something in you that craves this total surrender, isn't there?" Questioning in a way that forces her to agree internally. This builds a narrative where she sees herself as part of a shared secret, increasing mutual attraction without forcing anything. According to Stoicism, this controlled calm in your delivery amplifies the effect, because your composure makes her trust and obey instinctively. Women exposed to this report a feeling of fascination, as if pulled by an invisible force. Use it in a subtle flirt and observe curiosity turning into anxious and provocative obedience. Refine the technique by varying the tone to be slightly provocative, whispering phrases that evoke images of surrender, like, "Think about the pleasure of following this impulse without hesitating." This awakens hidden desires, making her imagine scenarios that bind her to you deeply. Based on the psychology of manipulation, it explores how positive suggestions create emotional bonds, leading to an obedience that seems to come from her. Experienced men notice that this creates a dynamic where she seeks more, obeying subtle commands with enthusiasm. Try it and feel the power of words that control without being noticed. End each interaction with a phrase that leaves an anchor, like, "You'll remember this later," and smile, reinforcing lasting mental control. This ensures the effect persists, based on Stoicism that teaches maintaining internal control to influence the external. The result is a woman who obeys madly, attracted by this sexy mystery. But what if there was a final touch that united everything, revealing a power that makes her not only obey, but beg for more? What's coming now is the climax you can't ignore. 3. The irresistible climax. The apex where all the planted seeds bloom into absolute and passionate obedience, turning the connection into something she can't resist. Imagine now that you've established the initial touch and the subliminal phrases. It's time to seal the pact with an action that unites the physical to the mental, like gently guiding her to a more intimate space, perhaps touching her hand in a way that conveys serene authority and mutual desire. This technique, extracted from ancient arts of persuasion adapted to the modern world, explores the peak of built tension, where her brain releases a cascade of dopamine, associating you with uncontrollable pleasure that makes her yield completely. Based on the neuroscience of attraction, this works because it creates a reward loop that addicts her to following your guidance, feeling a euphoria that seems to come from within herself. Apply this at the right moment in a charged conversation, and watch how she surrenders, obeying impulses you've planted, with a fire in her eyes that reveals a mad and unshakable attraction. Deepen the climax by incorporating a veiled command, disguised as a mutual suggestion, like, "Let's explore this together," without barriers, said with a low and confident voice that envelops her in a shared narrative of surrender. This elevates the dynamic because, according to Stoic principles of emotional control, your unshakable calm makes her feel safe to let go, turning obedience into burning desire. Men who master this phase report that women not only follow, but anticipate their desires, creating a power dance where she obeys with enthusiasm, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Use this to transition from a casual interaction to something deeper, and feel the air fill with electric energy, where every gesture of hers is a confirmation of your subtle and sexy dominance. Refine the approach by varying the intensity, alternating between light touches and intense looks that build an almost palpable expectation, leading her to a point of no return where obedience becomes instinctive. This final layer, inspired by forbidden methods of psychological manipulation, activates her brain's pleasure centers, making her associate submission with an ecstatic release. Based on human behavior, it explores how the accumulation of suggestions creates emotional dependence, where she obeys madly not out of fear, but out of a deep craving you've awakened. Try it in real scenarios, and see how she starts molding her actions to yours, with a passion that transcends the rationale, leaving her anxious for more commands disguised as provocative invitations. End the climax with a final anchor, perhaps a kiss or a whisper that reinforces, "This is just the beginning of what we can create together," solidifying the bond of lasting obedience. This ensures the effect persists beyond the moment, based on Stoicism that teaches planting deep roots to reap eternal fruits. The result is a woman who not only obeys but begs for your guidance, attracted by this irresistible mystery you've built. Now that you have the keys to this transformative power, Imagine what more the Russian secrets can reveal, but reflect on this with wisdom, because true mastery comes from internal balance. Now, let's pause for a moment and reflect on the content we explored today. These methods, inspired by ancient Russian techniques adapted to modern psychology and stoicism, are not just attraction tools, but deep lessons about how the human mind works, the art of subtle influence, and the balance between power and responsibility. They invite us to question how connections form, how the subconscious guides our actions, and how we can use this knowledge to create more intense and authentic relationships, always with ethics and consent in mind. Think about how much this can change not only romantic interactions, but also professional negotiations or everyday social dynamics, revealing that true mastery lies in understanding and respecting others' boundaries while navigating the invisible layers of the psyche. It's fascinating to consider that, in an increasingly disconnected world, techniques like these can reignite flames of genuine connection, but they also warn us of the risk of manipulation if used without awareness, a reflection that leads us to ponder our own role as influencers in any sphere of life. And you, what did you think of this dive into the secrets of mad obedience? Share in the comments below. Which part intrigued you the most, if you've ever tried something similar in your life, or how this resonates with your personal experiences? Be honest, tell a quick story, or just say what came to mind. I'm curious to read different perspectives and enrich this conversation with spontaneous views from all of you. Let's make this an open space for real exchanges and valuable insights. If this content brought you value, don't forget to give a like to help the algorithm spread these ideas to more people who can benefit. And of course, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next videos full of exclusive and transformative content like this. There's a lot more coming, with secrets that will elevate your game in all aspects of life. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.